Every now and then, the world of sports provides us with an underdog story that inspires us to extend beyond our own limits. Rocky Balboa punched his way into our hearts in the mid-70s, the story of an overlooked and underappreciated boxer who doggedly took the heavyweight champion the distance. But the fictional tale of Rocky doesn't happen without the real-life tale of Chuck Wepner 1 year earlier. Don't know who Chuck Wepner is? That's okay. No one knew who Chuck Wepner was in 1975 when he emerged from Bayonne, New Jersey to not just knock down Muhammad Ali, but almost going the full distance against the self-described greatest, falling just 19 seconds short before a ref stoppage. And Johnny Klein would not be denied in his quest to go from being an undersized forward that fell in the MLS Super Draft to the second round to the main roster of St. Louis City SC, though he did need some luck and an unfortunate injury for that to happen. Klein was born just 2 short months before Y2K in Kansas City, making him 24 years old at the time this video was released. He'd eventually move to Columbia, Missouri, and it would take him just 1 season at Rockbridge High School to become the district's Player of the Year. His performance at Rockbridge caught the eye of Sporting Kansas City's academy, but he'd ultimately signed a USL Academy contract with the Portland Timbers' second team. He made 29 starts with the Timbers U19s and scored 5 goals. But in 2018, after not appearing for the Timbers' second team, Klein opted to leave Portland and take his talents to St. Louis University, which was a familiar place for him and his family. Johnny's full name is Johnny Klein III. His father, John, played at SLU in the mid-'80s and went on to spend most of his pro career playing indoor soccer with the St. Louis Ambush in the mid-'90s. His grandfather, John, first of his name, was part of the Billikens national championship teams in 1959 and 1960, and then his great-uncle Tom Klein won a national championship with the Billikens in 1962. And then from 2018 to 2022, Johnny, third of his name, became an offensive weapon for the Billikens. In his freshman season, he led SLU with 9 goals, the highest total by a first-year Billiken since 2003. He was named A10 Conference Freshman of the Year as well, and showed early why he doesn't just have the scoring touch, but also the bravery to find a goal when he needs to give a little extra. He'd continue his hot start by being a consistent and durable performer in every season, playing 88 games and starting 83 of them. In all 5 years he was there, he'd be an offensive engine for the Billikens, scoring 29 goals and adding 27 assists, proving himself not just as a goal hunter, but also a facilitator. At SLU, he played primarily as a center attacking 10, but he also proved he could attack from the wings as well. Now, short players can definitely succeed. Sebastian Giovinco stands at just 5'3", and he terrorized MLS defenses while he was in Toronto, scoring 68 goals in 114 games. But players like him are often an exception to the rule in a physical league like MLS, and despite massive production at SLU, Klein fell out of the first round. That could be in part because he only stands 5'7" and weighs just 139 pounds. But Klein didn't fall far out of the first round, actually to the very first pick of the second round, and he didn't have to leave Missouri. He would become the second pick in St. Louis City's young history. The first, by the way, was Owen O'Malley, and we don't talk about Owen O'Malley. At least I assume we don't, because no one else really seems to. He just kind of disappeared like a Spinal Tap drummer. Klein's 2023 saw him spend most of the season with St. Louis City 2, playing 28 games and scoring golazzos like this one, which became MLS Next Pro's Goal of the Year. He tallied 13 goals and 4 assists. He did get into 2 MLS matches, playing a total of 22 minutes. He made his MLS debut against his original MLS club from his academy days, Sporting Kansas City. He told West News Magazine, quote, "Playing before that many people is so much fun. There was a bunch of excitement and adrenaline, and there were 22,000 fans there. Like me, most of the fans are from St. Louis and love soccer," end quote. He also got in some game time against Real Salt Lake, and while he didn't get major minutes, it gave him the confidence to think MLS was indeed his future, telling West News Magazine again, quote, "The ultimate goal is to move up. I'll work hard to do that. Going back to when I was 7 years old, I've wanted to play in the MLS. That goal is super attainable now." End quote. And St. Louis City head coach Bradley Carnell took notice, praising Klein's leadership and energy to West News Magazine. He had high marks on Klein's counter-pressing, calling him a tenacious, in-your-face type player worth monitoring. Definitely someone worth monitoring in the St. Louis City SC system, which values high-pressing attackers. But the offseason for St. Louis City came and went without a clearer path for Johnny Klein to the pros. Yes, the club did sell Jared Stroud to DC United in exchange for Chris Durkin, filling a major defensive midfielder hole, and they also sold Nico Gioacchini to Como as the first real success story for the club in developing a player. However, they did not replace either one of them. Instead, they were counting on the likes of Tomas Ostrak, Cilio Pompeu, Aziel Jackson, and Nukvi Thoresen to step up and fill that void, and instead focused on not just acquiring Durkin, but also filling both fullback spots, which was a troublesome area last year. Klein re-signed with City 2 this season and more or less picked up where he left off, scoring 4 goals and adding 2 assists while playing on the left wing, but as you just saw, playing as a central attacker now and then. Now, at the time of this recording, City 2 is having such a good season, City 2 actually leads the entire MLS Next Pro, and again, Johnny Klein has been a regular starter for them this year. And it seemed like this season would more or less mirror the last. Pompeu and Ostrak took strides in their development, although Ostrak was playing in a mostly different position than he was accustomed to. But Aziel Jackson and Nukvi Thoresen have struggled at points this season, and AZ is now gone. He is sold to Columbus. But in June, an opportunity would come for Johnny Klein, just not the opportunity that anyone was hoping for. Pompeu broke his leg on a freak incident. Ostrak blew a tendon during training, Rasmus Alm suffered a knee injury, and AZ again was sold to make way for incoming offensive reinforcements Marcel Hartl and Cedric Teukert. All this a month before the MLS transfer window opens. And with a lot of time between all of this happening in June to the open of the window on July 18th, St. Louis needed reinforcements now. And Klein became one of a handful of players that City promoted from City 2 for short-term reinforcements. Teams are allowed to play reserve players twice before needing to sign them to main roster contracts or keeping them on Next Pro for the rest of the season. Now, Klein quickly used his 2 appearances in relief in back-to-back losses against FC Dallas and Colorado Rapids, coming off the bench late in each. But that only got City SC up to the June 22nd match against Atlanta United. There was almost a month before reinforcements arrived, and the club looking critically thin on the wings. So before that Atlanta United match, the club announced they had signed Johnny Klein to a main roster contract for the rest of the season, but with club options for 2025 and 2026. Clubs are allowed to sign their own reserve players outside of a transfer window if need be in the MLS. So it finally happened. Klein had defined his own lack of size and critics to earn a bona fide MLS contract. But the way his contract is structured almost makes it still seem like he has a little bit of something to prove, doesn't it? He has those 2 options, and he has to earn those options every single year, but maybe at this point, Klein wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, he'd be far from the first City player that would have to convince Carnell to have no other choice but to play him. Look at the guy that he's indirectly replacing on the roster. Pompeu himself was someone who had to convince anyone to sign him in the first place. After starring at VCU, the Brazilian went undrafted in the MLS Super Draft. As an expansion size still filling out its roster, St. Louis may have been the opportunity that Cilio was looking for, and as he explained on the always excellent City Voice podcast, he arrived eager to prove his own doubters.
I gotta prove them wrong again, and I was all right. And then I just embraced this opportunity, you know. All right, St. Louis new team. They don't have an MLS team yet. They don't have the first team yet, so I'm just gonna prove them that I deserve this to be in the first team, that I am an MLS player. So I felt very good. All right, I'm gonna go there and show them that I am this MLS player.
Now, Pompeu spent most of 2023 on the main roster of St. Louis City, getting in 26 games, mostly off the bench. He did start 7 games combined in the U.S. Open Cup, Leagues Cup, and for City 2 and MLS Next Pro, and he played every minute like he had something to prove. And prove himself he did. He started most of his 17 matches in 2024, scoring 3 goals, adding 5 assists, and becoming one of the best one-on-one attackers in the MLS this season. He always provided energy, was unafraid to get in defenders' faces on defense, and made the most out of every minute that he could in an effort to prove his worth. Just like Johnny Klein has done in his time in St. Louis. Klein's story does kind of feel like Celio's to me, where Celio needed Stroud to get out of the way to make his mark on the lineup, and unfortunately Klein needed Pompeu out of the way to get his chance at a main roster contract. But while Celio's flashier and Klein is grittier, both never take a game off, and both players' games can safely be described as unafraid. Just a day after signing his big roster contract, he hustles to pick up the rebound and score to clinch a City 2 win over the club that first gave him a chance in their academy, Sporting Kansas City. Klein has put in the work already to give him a chance on the big roster, and few on the pitch will work harder than him. But like Celio, he's made it to the big roster, but now he needs to give Carnell no choice but to play him. Now, as someone that watched him for many years back at SLU, I'm rooting for his success. I'll admit that right here and now. I've always been a fan of his game, his hardworking style, and he's the kind of player that could replace the energy St. Louis is lacking in Celio, who will be out for probably the next calendar year, maybe a little less if he's lucky. But I will make the analogy that success might be a tall order for a man whose name literally means small in German. So it's fair to say that I've been in Johnny Klein's supporters section for many years now, and these guys have been in my supporters section for just a little while. Why don't you join them? It's just 99 cents a month, allows you to skip ads, and I'll add you to the list along with these fine folks as well. Seriously, it's just 99 cents, people. And what do you think of Johnny Klein? Do you think he has a chance to succeed in the MLS with St. Louis, or do you think it's just not going to happen? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more St. Louis City content like this. This is your soccer zombie, Tom Franklin here, and I already have a couple videos up on Marcel Hartle already. You can check those out. But if you want a refresher on the other big offensive signing that St. Louis is making, Cedric Teuchert, Yogurt, do the thing. Getting his name right, I'll never sing that.